Mr. President. Rather than jails, we call our prisons correctional facilities, named with the hope that prisoners will be detained for only that time which is necessary for them to reflect on their behaviour, have the support to correct that behaviour which required them to be excluded from society in the first place, and return to society as productive members. That correctional support may require therapeutic interventions, education, training, and will always require discipline. Discipline to help prisoners develop self-discipline, discipline to keep prisons safe and orderly for all, and discipline to ensure a safe place of work for prison officers. This bill is about prison discipline. It seeks to clarify how disciplinary matters are determined within our correctional centres. It responds to the New South Wales Ombudsman's 2024 report, which found systemic failures in the administration of inmate discipline. And the Ombudsman's recommendations were clear. Reforms were needed which should improve fairness. The Ombudsman was not alone in calling for reform. Following their report, Corrective Services New South Wales conducted their own internal review into the management of inmate discipline and found that prison staff were mistakenly using the civil standard of proof when the legislation required the criminal standard of proof to be used. This was said to be due to a lack of education and training. Curiously, this bill responds to the internal review and appears to pay scant attention to the Ombudsman's more extensive investigation. It is not clear how much influence the Public Service Association has had in this government decision. It is clear that the Public Service Association boss, Mr. Stuart Little, has been directly lobbying the Premier to enact exactly the changes found in this bill, to lower the standard of proof for inmate misconduct to the civil balance of probabilities, which had long been applied by correctional officers in error, and to retrospectively apply this lower threshold to all past reviewable disciplinary decisions. It's Mr. Little's right to lobby the Premier, and our right, in an open society, to know who is lobbying the Premier so that we can see all the influences on decision-making. What is unclear in the decision-making process around this legislation is the role played by the Public Service Association lawyer with carriage of corrective services matters, the Premier's brother, Jim Minns. Minns Jr. is entitled to have any number of conversations with his brother, most of which I'm sure would be of no interest to members of this place or to the public. However, if those conversations were directly about the content of this bill and the decision by this government to prefer the approach taken by the internal review and the Public Service Association over that taken by the Ombudsman, then we do have a direct and justified interest in those conversations. And the Premier himself has told us that he and his brother do discuss these issues in detail. As he told Ben Fordham last month, quote, "My brother is the union's lawyer. Around the Christmas table and around the family table. He tells me exactly what's going on," end quote. It is because of this potential for familial conflict of interests that the Ministerial Code of Conduct, in the words of the ICAC's annotated guide, seeks, quote, "to ensure that the public interest is always placed ahead of private interests when ministers perform their duties," end quote. The test specified in 7.3 of the Code is an objective one, and the Commission found in Operation Keppel that, quote, "it would be sufficient that the Minister knew all the facts constituting the ingredients necessary to constitute a conflict of interest without subjectively knowing they constituted a conflict of interest," end quote. The schedule to the Ministerial Code provides methods of managing any real or perceived conflicts of interest arising from familial or other relationships, and these include disclosing all relationships promptly and abstaining at all decision-making forums. It may be that the Premier has fully disclosed his relationship with his brother and abstained from Cabinet deliberations about this bill. We, of course, don't know, because both the Ministerial Register of Interests and Cabinet minutes are confidential. When journalists, including Jordan Baker from the Sydney Morning Herald, asked questions of the Premier about these matters this week, there was stony silence. In the words of Baker, the Premier decided it wasn't worth a response. This is disappointing but not surprising. Despite assurances of integrity and openness, we in this place have become used to a government which eschews accountability and declines to answer questions, or answers them in such a perfunctory way as to be meaningless. So we can guess at why the decisions reflected in the bill before us were made by this government, but we cannot know for certain what and who influenced the shape of the bill before us. It is one of many answers to the questions of how to improve certainty, clarity and accountability in inmate misconduct proceedings. And while it may not be the answer we would have preferred or the answer advocated for by the Ombudsman, it is, in the government's opinion, their chosen answer, and it is certainly a way to improve safety and disciplinary proceedings within correctional facilities, and so we are prepared to support it. We are comfortable that it retains the criminal standard of proof for offences referred to visiting magistrates and retains the power for serious matters to be referred to the New South Wales Police for consideration of criminal prosecution. We acknowledge the advice that corrective services will implement policy updates and officer training, and we hope that these amendments will successfully achieve their objective.